dads and families. And today we have a special guest. We have Andrew, who's joining us to talk about the art for healing and art for a living. So, without further ado, I'm Christine Belknap, stress management coach, and much more. And I'm excited to welcome Andrew here to the front. Welcome, Andrew. I'm excited that you're here.
Thank you, Christine. It's really a joy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. And art is so important on so many different levels. So, you know, I want dads to think about what space do you leave for art in your lives and with your children. Oh, I forgot to mute that phone. Give me a sec because I don't want to be distracted by a phone. How can you activate this part of your brain? Ooh. So we will start. So, Andrew, you're a dad of a 21-year-old and who's neurodiverse, correct?
Yeah.
And you're from New Jersey, and you're an award-winning photographer, author, inventor, and coach. And for 25 years, you've helped people preserve, protect, and back up their photographs, videos, and other important digital files. So that's pretty cool because you'll be able to share the importance this also has had for your son, right? So I'm going
Yeah.
to let you take it away.
Well, art has been a part of my life since as long as I can remember. And I'll tell you a funny story to get
Mm-hmm.
things started.
Yep.
So, my grandparents had an apartment in the Bronx, which is a borough of New York City.
Yep.
And I used to spend a week here, a week there, usually in the summers. And I was probably somewhere between 3 and 5 years old. And they had given me some crayons, maybe some pens, probably some paper. But I didn't use the paper. I saw a beautiful white wall and I just went to town. And the only thing I remember is afterward, I really didn't get a scolding. I don't remember a lot of praise, but I don't remember a scolding. And I had so much fun
Mm.
writing on the walls, making pictures, stick figures, whatever I was doing. And then many years later, I learned that Dr. Seuss also got his start writing on his walls, and his mom really encouraged him. And it led to, well, I don't have to tell you what that led to because it's been a part of probably almost everyone's life in most of the world.
There's many aspects of what you said that I just love and want to add a little bit. So the fact that you saw the wall instead of a piece of paper is awesome. And I've heard this story many times. But what I really love is how your parents reacted. And our reaction as a parent has a lot to do. Would you have become, so the question is, would you have become an artist if your parents had reprimanded you and sent you to your room and punished you, etc., and given you a scolding? Not sure. Maybe you still would have. But that's the difference I have found with kids. I mean, I taught for 30 years, so I've seen many kids just whittle down and not do what they need to do because of how parents were doing things. And I'm one of these parents that did not know better when my son was younger, and it had a very negative effect on my son. So I'm really excited that you shared this story to get us started. What else would you like to share with us?
Well, on that, what's so interesting is history repeats itself because I was just watching something about a week ago, and it's a dad who has a channel with, I think, two girls, probably within between 3 and maybe 6 years old. And he started the video by them writing, writing on the wall and then making whatever things. And then he's like, oh, girls, you know what? I have a surprise for you. So they painted the wall together. And
Mhm.
then he put a shelf above and he anchored it. And then he put sort of like a paper towel roll, uh,
Awesome.
dowel with a roll of paper, and it went down. And he put a frame up. And now they were able to put the paper behind the frame and paint and draw as much as they want on the wall. It was like brilliant. I'll send you the link afterward.
It's brilliant because this is awesome for dads who are looking for solutions to make life more fun for their kids and to show more love towards their kids. And that's great because once they're done the drawing and everybody's seen it, they can bring it down. Or if parents aren't available in that moment, they can
Mhm.
still bring it down and start something else. So
Yes,
that is really, really cool. I love that
absolutely.
idea.
Yes. So maybe I can bring you on a little trip through memory lane. From about the age of 6, 7, 8, I started to learn about music. And my brother, he was a big Bruce Springsteen fan. He still is. And so I would, and The Who and some others. And I remember looking at his albums. You can tell I'm probably
Yep,
dating myself, but
it's okay.
beautiful albums. And so I happen to have a few, not my albums, which I also have, but some of the ones that really touched me with regard to how artistic they are. So I'll
Mm.
take out the one that's my dad to this day, his idol, gentleman you may have heard of.
Mhm.
You might be able to guess. So this is just an example of an album cover, which is
Yeah.
painted, beautiful painted portrait. And then I was so surprised, and I love when they have double albums because then you get
Oh, I
this.
love it. Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
can you believe that I was looking for something for our talk today and I found an actual piece of art with actual art implements in the inside. So, and then on the back, it's more of a sketch, black and white. So it's a study in art, and I think often we don't realize just through listening to music, whether it's albums, CDs, or things like Spotify. Everything has art related to it, and we're always taking that in. And some of the most iconic art, like the Rolling Stones with the lips, and I could go on and on and on. It comes from art related to music. You wouldn't think that, but if you think back to some of the most iconic artwork, it's connected to music. So, yeah.
Can I just pause you? And so, as a dad, if you're listening to
Mhm.
this music with your child, what would you say about the artwork? Would you I'm sure you would take time and talk about it with your child and what just to support dads so they have a better insight on especially those who aren't artists, sometimes our brains like, "Oh, I don't know what to say. Look at the picture." What do you think?
Hmm. Well, in the case of my son, when he was very young, one of his teachers gave him this beautiful book that also had music in it. You probably have seen them. On the right side, you hit a button and it corresponds with the page and it had the lyrics, and it happened to be the Wiggles. So if people don't know the Wiggles, I highly recommend you check them out. They've been a band for many years. They keep changing people, but for many years they had a core group of four singers and musicians, and
Mhm.
when he saw that, he really connected with it. And it had sort of cartoon like art on every page. So he had
Mm.
a chance to see the art. Let's say they were in the Big Red Car, that's one of their songs. And he would play the song and he would see the artwork. So I think that's a perfect example of him having the same experience, let's say me, my dad, with a bigger album.
Oh, yeah, really cool. I love that. But do you talk about the art? Do you ask him questions about it? Do you
I think what we would do is we would sing with him. That was the
Mhm.
most fun. And as far as how the artwork worked, maybe we would say, show me, you know, show me Jeff or something, like to kind of see if he knows and remembers the people. That's one way that art could be used in an educational way because it's a lot more fun than, let's say, a black and white worksheet that
Yes.
often kids get in school. So I would say more impactful on the art side was when I would bring him to like Children's Specialized Hospital we have here in New Jersey, and they would have an art program, and they would bring out canvases for all the kids, and they would paint. And he created something uh, a couple times. It's just beautiful. Every time he went, he created something else that was beautiful. So that's just another example of him
Mm.
using art and having it help him to connect with himself and also with the outside world.
I love that. And what I'm hearing is offer the blank canvas to the child, because
Yeah.
sometimes we want to do, right?
Hmm.
And instead, we just need to be there, offer the tools, and they will be able to show you what they know. I remember my son isn't an artist, but when he was young, he just took his pencil and he went around, like, just drew the outline of an elephant. It
Mm.
was amazing. You could really tell it was an elephant. I don't know, he was 2, 3 years old,
Hmm.
and it was amazing. I was like, "How can you, draw this? I can't even do that." So, that was
Yeah,
kind of
that's
cool. So, just offering them the space, and we can just sit and do some art beside them, right?
mhm.
Do our own thing and let them, um, just do whatever they want, and I think it's really important. I don't know what you think of this, is to say nothing.
Yes, just let them do their things and see what they come up with. And often it's just amazing what they come up with. He would bring stuff home from school. Obviously, I didn't know how much guidance he had, but
Yeah.
it's on the walls of family members. It's really
Wow.
wonderful.
Wow, that's really cool. When I was teaching, what I had learned to say to the children is, "Tell me about your drawing, your painting," so that I did not misinterpret and hurt their feelings, right? Because
Hmm.
sometimes they worked really, really hard on something, it didn't quite come out the way they want. So if they can, just be able to verbalize what it is. Mm.
Absolutely. I can go now to the 1990s where I started working for a company and I was in the large format printing area. So I would see all kinds of amazing artwork from high fashion to amazing black and white photography from some of the people who I really looked up to. And then the company happened to invest in a really wonderful inkjet printer called the Iris printer. And I found one of my prints from then. And this is
Wow.
one of the first that I had within the first couple of years, at least, of them having it. So I was fortunate to spend time in Europe, both as a student and then later I went back with
Mhm.
my girlfriend, my wife currently. And this was one of the photographs that I had taken on slide film.
Oh, wow.
You can guess where that is.
Yes.
And so it was just wonderful to be able to give it to the people who worked there and have it come out on this large sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And so this was sort of what really moved me forward
Mm.
by being able to make print after print after print and see what the results were on different papers. And it affected me deeply and it led to so many other projects after that.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, and then you can frame them and have something beautiful on your wall that speaks to
Yeah.
you, right?
Yes, yeah. And
And
then
and to anybody who has been there, it really speaks to them. Yeah.
about 5 years after that was printed, I really got into printing and started teaching a bit. So this was actually part of an exhibition that I had in New York City called Approaching Nirvana. Uh, it was about Buddhism in Japan, and all the
Mm.
photographs have that theme: Buddhism in Japan. So I have two large prints that I made on another wonderful press that they had there at the company. So the first one I'll show you is kind of a pensive. This is in Kyoto.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Well, thank you, thank you. That's from Kyoto, and then the other one, actually, they're both from Kyoto. So if anyone has been to Kyoto, they'll know how special a place it is. Okay. And this one is also Kyoto. This was a taxi that I captured over like a period of maybe 8 seconds. And I
Mhm.
just stood very, very still and was able to get the lights in front of what I believe it's either a home or ryokan, which is a Japanese inn.
Yeah.
And so I made a number of these for that show. So it taught me a lot about printmaking and creating these. And about a year after that, I made my first, I would say, for me, very high quantity. It was over 1,000, I think. This was my first print of a series that I started doing a lot of, which are
Mm.
18 by 24
Yeah.
inch prints. This was a dog that I photographed because I photographed hundreds of dogs over the years. My friend calls this one Lucky Dog because the dog lives in a beautiful home.
Mm,
And since
very
then, I made about 7 of those, but I haven't always done very high quantities. Sometimes I just do short runs, 10, 20, 50, 200, for example. And so just as time has gone on, I've learned more and I found ways to get them out into the world. And it's just a lot of fun. And I'll tell you about a few other projects going pretty much in order. In 2014, you'll see here, this is one of the pages from a calendar. I did a calendar called New Jersey Dogs.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So here's one of the pages,
Yeah.
and I collaborated. I had already taken all the photographs at different events, charity events, in some cases my clients who had photographed their dogs over the years. So
Hmm.
this one and it's
Yeah.
another one. So
Right.
this was a wonderful project that I did, and I learned all about this world of making calendars, which is very difficult. Here's a tip. If you're going to do a calendar, probably find a calendar that you already like so you don't have to do any of the dates and the holidays,
Uh,
because wow, that is the hardest part. Apart from that, once you have all that, you can, purchase the rights to it, then it's fairly easy. You just find a way to have it printed. And but
cool.
please, I highly
Yeah,
recommend.
that's
Yes.
cool. So, from everything you do, does your son do any art as well?
Well, he sometimes takes pictures either with an iPad, or I have a
Yeah.
small camera for him. So sometimes we'll go out and he'll also take pictures. It's not his favorite thing. I think he prefers, just drawing on paper more.
Hmm.
So,
And
but
have you been,
yes.
sorry, go ahead, finish up.
But what's nice is sometimes I'll look through the iPhone, for example, and I'll see this beautiful portrait of stuffed animals, lined up, and I thought that's really heartwarming to see that he saw that, whether it's something he saw me do or it's just something that he wanted to do. I think that's wonderful.
And have you like helped him get some like a small business going, his own little business so that he can I mean you need to help him because of his issues, but or just incorporate it in your business, some of the amazing things that you notice or
I haven't yet, but you never know, especially as I move more toward promoting my own work. And not that I'm leaving behind the teaching and consulting,
Mhm.
but I am really pushing more toward showing more of my art, because even though I've been doing it for now over 30 years,
Yeah.
I believe that if I focus more on getting my work out there and I recruit enough referral partners, then I
Mhm.
can have my work on more people's walls, which is very, very satisfying and gratifying.
Very exciting anyway. Yeah.
Yes.
And excellent. So, how can art change your child's life and future? Mm.
I believe there's many ways. Maybe in his case, he might actually want to take more photographs, and then obviously I could guide him toward print sales. And I know someone who's doing that now with their son who has special needs. And so
Cool.
that's just one way. That's probably the easiest way, is
Yeah.
to help him capture what's around him and then help guide him toward actually making it a business.
Yeah.
And
Because what
yeah.
I've understood from what you've said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that, you know, what you choose to photograph is what talks to your heart.
Mhm.
And him doing that with his will attract a different type of audience, right? It won't be
Yes.
necessarily the same audience as yours, but it'll be
Mm.
a possibility. And like, I don't want to put you on the spot either, but I just had this ding, like maybe this would be cool for him and maybe not. And how can it be
Hmm.
started without any pressure on him, right? Because that's the
Hmm.
most important. Because if he starts feeling pressure, I think he's just going to say, Dad, no way, you know?
Yes, yes,
So,
I agree. And I have another story. I just thought about it because one of the things I did recently was I created a series, actually one main print, but it's part of a series.
okay.
And it's a photograph that I captured over 30 years ago. I was with my mom,
Mm,
and my mom loves flowers just to this day. She still loves
yeah,
flowers. And
yeah.
so this was an experience I had with her where we went out and I captured this image, and I have a whole story. I even did like a launch party for it. And so this is the image.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. It
that
almost looks like a bird flying as well. That's really cool. That's a really
yeah,
cool angle.
thank you, thank you. So I'm very attached to flowers. I have thousands and thousands of flower photographs. So this is the first one that I did in this particular size. And uh, although I plan to do more, this was the first one where I created 200.
Mhm.
And now I'm finding referral partners. But the fact that there's a connection with the mother and son, and we're talking
Yeah,
about family, I
yeah.
wanted to mention that because it's so interesting how the generations work that way. You think about all the families who either are in the world of baking or photography. It could be anything, but it's so interesting how families influence each other.
Yes. And yes, and your mom's love of flowers has like gone into your love, and it's nice to be able to take those pictures, especially when you're having a nice walk with your mom. What a
Mm.
awesome way to create a bond. And yeah, so your son, no, that wasn't you today. I talked to another parent today, so I've got the wrong parent in mind. I was
No
gonna say
problem.
likes to bicycle, but that wasn't you. That was
Uh-huh.
another son. But whatever it is that he likes, if you do it together
Hmm.
and he takes pictures, he might come out with something
Hmm.
really cool and amazing. Yeah. My dad was a hobby photographer and had created his own black room, dark room, right?
Darkroom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
dark room. And so when I take pictures, he would always say, when I got into my 20s or 30s, he'd say, "Oh, Christine," da, 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 da," and I never took it as a critique. I took it as a,
Hmm.
"Oh, how can I improve?" And now when I take pictures, he says, "Oh, that's good. You got it centered right." And sometimes I'm like, "Dad, don't look at how it's centered. Just."
Yes, and my dad definitely had an effect on me growing up because he would often take pictures with slide film from trips and things like that. And then
Yeah.
sometimes he'd bring out the slide projector and the screen, and we'd watch the slides just come up in the darkened room. And that's magic. If you haven't had that experience, there's a sound of the fan and the clicking of the
Yeah.
slide going in and out. And often, people put them in upside down, so
Yeah.
you're like this. But
Yeah,
it's
it's true.
it's really quite an experience. So I have him to thank for that and so much more of the reason why I'm doing what I love.
Yeah, the and there's always like, it's really cool because before we got on, I didn't think we'd take this turn. And I like how that building an authentic relationship with your child through art is really kind of cool, because we can
Mm.
see how with your dad, with your mom, with your son. So that's a really cool way without going into complicated stuff, keeping it simple.
Hmm.
And I would recommend people, if your brain gets in the way and wants to say things that are negative, how about you snap, tap, relax, and zap that thought out? Because always with the thought of, how can I support my child on this journey? He may not be, never be an artist, but if he's young and having fun drawing, I want to support him in that, or into the picture taking or whatever it is. And sometimes, like, I still remember my daughter wanted to be a fashion designer. when she was in mid high school. And I said, well, I wasn't sure she would, that was her personality. I wasn't sure she had the personality for that. So I put her in a course for 2 weeks where
Hmm.
she went to a fashion design school. Well, after the first week, she's like, Mom, I am not, I don't want to hang around with this type of people. They're not my people. They're not who I am and what I am.
Hmm.
She's more of an animal lover. So fashion design wasn't really her thing, even though she
Hmm.
has designed clothes for her. She's really good at putting pieces of clothing together and has a great time, but sometimes offering the experience. So if you as a dad are not artistic at all, maybe a course in art with a private tutor or
Hmm.
somebody that, let them choose. And if they don't like it, they finish the course and you don't take another one. That's it. And at least,
Hmm.
it's and take time to get to know the person teaching. Does it match with your child's developmental stage, with the way they like to learn? Because that can be another big thing. It can make the experience not fun at all.
Yes, that is so
Yeah.
important. You see sometimes wonderful teachers on YouTube, for example, teaching subjects that normally would be very boring. But when you have the right teacher,
Yes.
Bob Ross comes to mind. Some people they can't even watch a minute of it, but some people they can actually sit down and get some paint and do what he does, which is wonderful. So you have to find what really motivates you. There's all kinds of things on meetup.com, for example, artists doing plein air and photo
Oh,
outings, and you generally don't even have to pay, or if you do, it's
mhm.
often a nominal cost.
Yeah. Oh, what a great tip for the dads that want to try something different, out of the box, right? For
Mhm.
artists, it's not out of the box, but for dads who are, the intellectual type, that's a corporate type, they will probably
Mhm.
appreciate all these things to improve their relationship or reconnect at a deeper level with their child. Because sometimes we have children that are artistic and we're not, and that's where it's a little bit more challenging. Go ahead.
Well, also, I have my first book, which came out quite a few years ago, is essentially it's a gallery in a book. So this book,
Oh, wow.
which I was fortunate to be invited to do by someone else who was an author, and he said, "Well, we would like to have another book in the series." So for 2 years, I worked on this 500-page book, and but really, what it is at its core, it's tips about how to choose a printer and color management. But really, what it is, it's an
Mm,
exhibition inside of a book. So
wow.
I've given an example of a print process, even though obviously you can't tip in all the different print processes, but it's a representation of different print processes for images that I've taken over the years. Things from the seat of a plane to trips from the south of France to
Mm,
Paris. So this is a wonderful way for me not just to share my advice and imagery, but 14 other people who are in the second half, wonderful
wow.
artists and people who shared their paintings, things like this, and their tips and advice of all different types of work. And it just came together beautifully. And I feel very
Yeah.
fortunate to have been able to be a part of bringing all these people together and for them to
Mm,
be able to share their artwork. And
cool.
I'd be
Cool. And
happy
because
to,
it has all
yeah.
these tips, right? They can connect with you and see um, how to get it. Or in the comments, you can add the link, the to buy the book, and so that they can purchase it, if especially more for the high school students, right? So that's really cool. Any last
Yes.
words before we head out?
I would say if you'd like a lot of my advice and information and about 25 pages of my second book, which is this one, How to Take Better Pictures of Just About Anything, you can just go to imagingbuffet.com/newsletter, or just go to imagingbuffet.com, and you can have access to my vault. There's no cost. You'll just get updates from me from time to time.
Ooh. Excellent. And you've left me a link for your your newsletter as well. So
That's it.
it's in the description, but feel free to put those links in the chats
Mhm.
in Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, so that people can get a hold of you, Andrew, and support your memory preservation.
Yes, that's
And
what it's
many,
all about.
yeah, and many of it, because we have so many pictures. Well, I do. I have albums of pictures upstairs, right? That someday it'll be nice to put on. Yeah, and that's a great way of having somebody do that for you and get it organized. And I'm assuming that's what memory preservation is about.
It's about not losing your precious data.
Mm.
And also, I have a custom bubble bag that I help bring to market. I'll just show you really briefly.
Go ahead.
So this is more for physical items, but about 17 years ago, I had an exhibition. Some of the pieces got damaged. So I talked to a gentleman in Dallas, Texas, named Mark Rogers, who has a wonderful company called Frame Destination. And I said, can you make me custom bubble bags? So he used whatever materials he had, and they worked out. So we found this really nice heavyweight bubble material, and he invested in really nice machinery to make these really nice edges. And people can order them online and in quantities as few as one. They have a flap which people can get with or without Velcro. So it really helps people to
Yeah.
protect their artwork. They make them from like the size of an iPad up to a large screen TV. And I have like 3 different pieces of art in here. And it's just that wonderful first level of protection, whether you're a
Mhm.
painter or someone who has framed art with or without glass. It's just a great first level protection. And then you feel, I think, much better about handing this to a collector instead of just having to
Yeah.
make them unwrap a roll of bubble and tape, which is
Yeah.
really not good. Plus, it often gets thrown away. So these can be reused over and over.
Excellent. And I was thinking, when you move, I've moved many, many times. So I'm thinking this is a great way to move your art without worrying about it. So,
Yeah, and if you're in like
yeah.
if you have a basement, I've had at least one flood. Probably,
Mm.
yeah, two. One was much worse than the other. And then if you have, imagine you have artwork and it's all lined up. Even if it's on the ground, though, I would probably raise it up. But sometimes the water goes up. Even if water comes up, it's waterproof. So you can
Cool.
imagine how that could be really useful to have
Mhm.
them just all lined up.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew. It was a pleasure to learn about all the art, and I hope it has inspired dads to support their children or child to look into it, or just, bring attention to the art so that they can, or go to an art museum, right? Art museums are always fun to discover and explore, and they always have sections. Well, here, the ones I've been to when my kids were little, they have the kids section and more the
Hmm.
adult section. So with the kids section, you can spend more time. So
Yes.
thank you so much for your stories, for your share. It was awesome to have you, and connect with Andrew. We'll put more information in the chat so that you can connect with him or write to me, and I'll give you his information. So
Thank you, Christine. Hope you have an art filled day.
thank you so much. And let me just remember to snap, tap, zap when your emotions take over. So, without further ado, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of The Ripple Effect of Love for Dads and Families. I believe in you.